Good morning and welcome to Carnivore News. Today, I wanted to present a new idea, a new kind of concept in terms of the scientific method. And the title of this particular presentation is Carnivore, a model that works. And what do I mean by this? Well, first of all, let me talk about the scientific method and the current way of doing things online, on the internet, and in the media today. Everything that we see, they say, is based on research that follows the scientific method. But in my opinion, none of this research that has been shown online can be considered to be useful or accurate. First of all, most of the research and the studies that are shown online are backed by larger companies in the nutrition space. And especially in the nutrition space, often it's the sugar companies that are backing a lot of the research that is done. Therefore, the research is performed automatically with a bias because these companies have agendas. They obviously want to increase their bottom line, and any results from their research that are contradictory to what they would hope would be the expected results is often removed, reduced, distorted, and not presented accurately. Let me quote Professor Bart Kay, or let me say in a more generic terms to what he had said before. In order to do accurate scientific study and an accurate research project, the only way really to do it exactly correctly is to take two twins, for example, in the nutrition space, who have been eating exactly the same their whole lives. And then at a certain point in time, change one parameter, say the eating of olive oil, if you wanted to test the efficacy of olive oil on health, and make that the only parameter different between the two twins over a certain period of time, and then monitor those twins in terms of the expected metric that you're looking at in terms of health. Obviously, this is not viable because it's impossible to keep, even if you have exactly identical twins eating the same nutrition their whole lives, and to have just the one metric changing. Also, a lot of studies are using animal studies like mouse studies, different DNA. Their evolution has been different to human evolution. Therefore, obviously, the way they react to different nutrition and eating habits, etc., is going to be different because their DNA is different and their evolution is different. So trying to extrapolate the results that occur in mice to men is obviously inaccurate and flawed, and can certainly not be considered a gold standard. Also, what happens in these scenarios is a lot of the research is based on epidemiological studying. And usually, what that means in nutrition is that somebody is sending out a whole lot of surveys to different groups of people and getting back information. For example, comparing carnivores to vegetarians, for example, where they'll send out these surveys asking people a whole lot of questions at different points of their lives. And the questions are pretty generic. The questions are limited because there's a whole lot of factors going on behind the scenes that are not being assessed in terms of the research and may be the real underliers of a particular condition or result. Just to give an example, for example, with surveys that are comparing, say, carnivores to vegetarians, they'll probably ask, how much meat do you eat a day? Questions like that. They won't take into account that historically people who eat meat are usually people who go against the grain of society, therefore are also drinkers, probably poor lifestyle, poor exercise, um, probably a lack of sleep, versus the vegetarian population as a rule tends to be people who more follow the recommendations of the media, the medical media, and therefore tend to work out more, or more concerned about their health, and are not smoking, things like that, which in the meat eating profile, probably more people will smoke, drink alcohol, etc. So all these factors are not taken into consideration. And then when the results come back, it seems like the people who eat meat have more incidences of all kinds of diseases versus those who are vegetarian. And maybe it's statistically significant according to the research metrics, but it's actually a nonsensical study because it's no way to determine all these other factors that are going into these kinds of research. And the statistically significant incidence that's shown between the two, they present it as being orders of magnitude, which is not true. It's even if they say it's 100%, basically it's a very small percent that they're showing difference. And the way they present the information is usually very inaccurately and not statistically significant. The one epidemiological study that most people cite is usually the smoking versus non-smoking. And when you look at the results of that study, you can see that there were orders of magnitude greater prevalence of illness in those who smoked versus who didn't. Not even close to the statistical significance that are shown in nutrition studies today. So I wouldn't put much weight at all on any kind of epidemiological study. The one thing, though, that you can use epidemiological studies for is if it shows that there is nothing going on, then that might be accurate. So, for example, if there's no difference between meat eaters and vegetarians, then maybe that study is showing that there's no difference because it doesn't matter about the other metrics at that point. You're looking for identifiers that are showing differences. So what I want to do today is present a new idea about how we should be approaching the scientific method. And what we can actually do to prove something works or doesn't without trying to use the epidemiological research that's typically done today. And that is to follow the scientific method of finding a model that works. And what I mean by that is based on certain parameters that are put into the model, certain results should come out of a model. So, for example, if you are using a model of carnivore eating, you are seeing results all across the board that are positive. For example, looking at your teeth get better over time. And even if this is an N of 1, you can determine it as being accurate for you. If you look at your brain, your intelligence will improve over time on carnivore. If you look at your level of insulin resistance and all the associated conditions, such as obesity, heart attacks, blood pressure, polycystic ovarian syndrome in women, all these kind of conditions are improved when on a carnivore model versus any other model. We have seen historically over the last 800 years since the agrarian revolution, all kinds of health conditions rapidly increasing, brain size decreasing, insulin resistance all over the place, going wild in the population. All kinds of diseases that didn't exist are now existing in terms of heart disease and atherosclerosis and the whole range of diseases across the board, pretty much in terms of chronic diseases. A lot of the inflammation diseases based on eating a lot of plants. So I strongly advocate using the carnivore model and testing it for yourself to see the results that you get. Be unbiased. Treat it like a scientific experiment where what you put in determines the results that come up based on the model that is used. I truly believe you will find this beneficial, useful, and a better way of determining what actually works for you. I hope this explanation and this idea of a model-based approach is useful to you and you find it valuable. Thank you so much for listening today.